of What If, titled "What If Earth Lost Its Mightiest Heroes."
You
And
know, I just realized I screwed up and we had no audio for the first few seconds. So nobody heard you say you're not Yali. They're thinking you're Yali.
guys, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not Yali. I'm way less charismatic. Um,
I wouldn't say that.
well, I
I don't want
mean,
you to hit me. Um,
but with me is Captain Kyle, of course. I don't know if we had audio for that part.
Probably not.
Or the head honcho here at Fandom Spotlight. Also, the you do the governor react stuff and that jazz.
Jazzy
Sorry,
Governor reacts.
I'm very very nervous. I don't know if anyone out there can tell.
Relax. The governor's here. Just
I don't know.
have fun.
I don't
That's
know if
all we're
that's
going
gonna
to
make
do
me
here
react.
as we talk about the most disturbingly darkest episodes thus far of What If. Though,
Literally the darkest timeline.
yes. But
So yeah, let's jump right in. Kyle, when did you watch it? Did you that was one of the things Yali's been asking, like, did you stay up till 2 a.m. and watch it, or did you wait till you were having a more comfortable time to watch it?
hails to the no. I'm not staying up till 2 a.m. to watch it.
Same here.
Um, I actually I have to watch it with May because if I
Mm-hmm.
don't, May will be very upset, and she will give me the look that makes me feel about 3 inches tall.
Yep.
So I'm closer to her height.
Mm.
And so yeah, I just waited till the till Wednesday. It was out. We had some food, watched it, and yeah, I enjoy the series a great deal. I'm not saying it's not worth
No.
staying up till 2 a.m. or 4 a.m. or whenever it's gonna pop in. But to me, I'm good with waiting as long as I avoid some spoilers.
Yep.
And I'm usually pretty good at that. But
I'm basically the same thing. Like my wife Ashley, she would murder me if I watched it without her. So we I wait till she gets home from work and we watch it together. But I also tend to try and avoid spoilers, but I don't get upset if I get a little spoiled to it because it's What If. Not like I'm trying to discredit the show because I do really enjoy it, but
it's
you
not
know,
going to spoil the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe if you get a spoiler.
right? Because how many times have characters died now that shouldn't have died? So many.
Indeed, indeed.
um, what did you think about What If Earth Lost Its Mightiest Heroes?
Well, I mean, the whole thing was actually not what if Earth lost its mightiest heroes. That was not the turning point. It's what if Hope decided to join S.H.I.E.L.D. and then get her ass killed. That was the turning point. That's what happened. And who knew that Hank Pym was such a psycho? You
Which
knew.
Oh yeah, no, totally. This is the closest comic accurate Hank Pym we've ever had. And as a side note for anyone watching, there will be spoilers. The show is what a day out now. We're gonna Soul Point's talking about it.
If you haven't seen it, what are you doing watching? You should be
go watch the show.
Contribute leave us some comments. Let us know. I'm watching the comments. So, what did you guys think of this ingenious and sick and twisted plan by Hank Pym to basically kill the mightiest heroes, the only people who stand between us and the dark? What did you think? Let us know in the comments.
Totally.
So yeah, what were your thoughts? You think? I don't remember Hank Pym. I remember him being a bad husband.
Well, yes. In the comics, he's very bad. He's just kind of bad in general. He's very much in the comics. You take the good with the bad kind of person. Not really, but he's this incarnation of him has always been is very interesting. I think it's a really good choice for Michael Douglas to play Hank Pym in general, and going with the whole like kind of always on edge super spy that's a little past his prime is a really cool choice. Definitely that Cold War pulp scientist hero vibe. So
Yeah, I thought it was definitely the casting in Ant-Man. He was a great choice, and but you got to realize I did not think about how powerful his devices and his plans would be, because he could slip by just about anything.
yep,
You know, we already had Scott Lang, a barely trained Ant Man, whoop the Falcon's ass,
yep,
and when you look at the other stuff that they could do, ingenious using a size changer on the Hulk's heart.
yeah,
That was like, but
terrifying.
sick, twisted, dark. Yeah, this is not a show meant for kids. I mean,
No,
he liquefied the Hulk. Thor got
uh,
run through
he,
by Hawkeye's arrow.
yep. It was a lot, and it wasn't just that. It's the fact that like both Hawkeye and Stark, it's like Hank basically went in and scrambled their brain from the inside out.
Yeah, it's
It's crazy.
it's crazy
And
scary.
that's kind of like and it's a really nice nod because Hank wasn't wearing the Ant-Man suit in this episode. He was wearing the Yellow Jacket suit. So it's a nice nod to the kind of dangerous things that could have been done, and why in the first Ant-Man movie Hank was so desperate not to let that technology fall into the wrong hands, because yeah, this is the kind of stuff people could do with it.
Yep, as he
This is
amply demonstrated.
this is arguably the kind of stuff he did even in the core cinematic universe in the 80s and 70s when he was a spy and an agent for Shield. Maybe not nearly as violently, but it's in the realm of the kind of crap he pulled.
Yeah, well, he could hide in someone's ear and follow them
Yep,
into a meeting and hear everything they hear.
yep.
But in this, yeah, it was just ultra violent and just pretty amazing. I mean, I did not expect the Hulk to die, and then that twist at the end. It's bad enough that they got rid of the Avengers, but who's here to avenge his brother Thor and take over the friggin' world?
Because he could.
Yeah,
It's not just and come on, man. The Avengers aren't gone. The Avengers are an idea. As long as
there
there's
was an
someone,
idea.
and it's still there. They got two captains coming up, apparently. No,
It would be cool to see a follow up to this What If. You
yeah.
know,
I kind of feel like that's the direction they may go with the further seasons, is following up some of the threads they started. Um, it'd be interesting to see if they did that. The So how do you feel this episode compares to the previous week's episode?
well, I would say T'Challa as Star Lord was a great concept. It did show how different of a person he was compared to Peter Quill. Peter Quill, um, not saying he was a bad kid,
No.
but he did not have from an early age these values instilled in him as
Yeah.
thoroughly as T'Challa did. So I know some people were like complaining about how T'Challa made Peter Quill look like an idiot. And
It's
he
not that
did.
Yeah, but it's because Peter Quill didn't really, it's not that Peter Quill's a bad guy, like you said. It's just that Peter Quill didn't care as much. He's just not.
And he had a much different childhood. His mother
Yep.
was sick. There was all kinds of stuff going on that he wasn't necessarily raised in as
He,
nurturing of an environment. But
yeah.
I would say the last episode was all about hope and the brighter side, and this is a universe that's actually better. The
Yeah.
snap never happened. Thanos is just like this guy said, "Oh yeah, I still think my idea is valid." taking out half the people in the universe. But, Star-Lord over there convinced me that maybe I should try a different approach.
Just
But,
different path. Just different path.
but I still think there was some merit to the, total different thing. And now we come to this polar opposite where basically all of Earth's heroes get killed.
So do you think? I
Go
was say,
ahead.
do you think this is the same world?
No, I don't think this is the same world. I think this is a different world. There's so many worlds.
Oh, sure, sure.
I don't think this is has anything to do with Star Lord being T'Challa.
Yeah.
But the thing that gets me is we have this new movie coming out, The Eternals, right?
Mhm.
And the Eternals have been on Earth for all this time, and they didn't raise, you know, any finger to help anybody. But
Because
now they're supposed, unless it was related to a specific threat that they were sent to combat, from what I gather from the trailers. But Loki and Asgard taking over the entire Earth, they're not going to do anything.
well, I mean, arguably, what to them, what's the difference of one quasi godlike entity from space bossing humanity around compared to another quasi godlike entity from space bossing humanity around? I mean,
That is true, but it would be. I think them doing What If now that most of the universe has been revealed. I'm still curious to see what's going to happen, how they bring in the X-Men. Because the X-Men had this huge, history in the comic books. Are they going to have something akin to the DC's Crisis on Infinite Earths and merge worlds together? And that's how we get Wolverine working with Cap, and having fond memories, or is it going to be, and I'm wondering, in this world of What If, are we going to see a What If episode with the X-Men?
see, that would be cool. I don't know if we're going to see it in this season per se because of how long it took some of these deals to fall in place. Um, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's something we see soon. My thought is that they're going to pull in was it a they're going to pull in Eternals with the X-Men. Is like mutants have kind of always been there because I think in the comics, like the origin of like why mutants even exist in the Marvel comics is linked to the Eternals and their whole shenanigans. Um, but it wouldn't surprise me if they're kind of like there's been some mutants like Apocalypse and Magneto. They've just kind of been there, but now more and more are showing up. Now there's like 10% of the population are mutants, kind of thing.
Well, what's interesting is they showed the World War II period, and they showed the modern day period when Iron Man showed up back in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
However, now they've shown. Thank you. Now they've shown Captain Marvel back in the 80s. They're showing
90s, I think.
Or the 90s.
Yeah.
I know Blockbuster was around. That's all I know.
Internet cafes, though.
But they're showing things that happened in the past. In Ant-Man and the Wasp, they basically said there was an Ant-Man before Scott Lang, Hank Pym, and the Wasp years ago. So there's stories that could be filled in that the general public may not know about mutants.
Yep.
But they could have a history in the Marvel Universe.
And maybe the whole the snap bringing, or the blip, I guess is what they're calling it, when everyone came back.
Yeah.
And the stuff to do with the Eternals generated enough energy that more mutants are going to start popping up now. Like they've always been there, but it's always been like a 0.3% of the population was mutants before, and now there's just going to be way more of them.
And being a mutant doesn't necessarily mean you have great powers. I mean, your power could be that you just have good balance.
Or
that could be a mutation.
The kid that can change channels by blinking.
Yeah, some of that stuff. Or it may be something like you have a power, you can change the color of your urine.
Yeah.
Not exactly something that you're going to be able to go fight,
No.
Magneto with. Aha!
You
Now it is brilliant orange.
well, then the
Fear
Sentinels
me.
then the Sentinels are going to show up. They're going to like, why are we even going to worry about this one? So
Mutant gene detected, but this one's funny. Let's leave it.
it's fine. It's fine.
You know,
It's going to be the one that topples everything though. Um,
yeah.
but oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah. There's a lot that can be done, filled in backstories where things have happened in the past that the general public just isn't aware of. But maybe there's like a section of Shield. Well, Shield died, came back. I don't know what's going on with Shield right now. But there's some government organization, maybe Sword, that's like, look, we know about these mutants. In fact, we know that Eric Lencher, Magneto,
Yep.
had
Magnus.
kids, and the Tesseract didn't give them powers.
It just kind
It
of awakened
just,
it,
it just, yeah, triggered their powers.
or get
So,
your supercharged them.
so Magneto's around. They have all these files on the X-Men. We are digressing though from the episode, which,
We're making our own what if.
yeah,
That's all it is. So was there anything that you felt was like shocking or surprising other than just the general tone of the episode?
like everyone friggin' dying.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's Hawkeye was just blaming himself. He's like, I don't mess up, and then when they showed what he actually did,
Yep.
what Hank Pym did to cause all this death,
Yeah.
it was very cool to see what was going on.
It's testament to, like, especially in comic books, usually the smart characters are the most dangerous ones, like the sciencey characters, because if it's very easy to look at like Stark, Pym, and then from the comics, Reed Richards, heck, even like Peter Parker and Dr. Octopus, any of them, if they just like cut loose and didn't stick to their morals, the terrible things they can do are just devastating. And Pym is a very strong show of that this time around.
Yeah. Pym definitely taking some of these really smart characters, the geeks that were picked out in high school,
Yeah.
and putting them in a situation where they're really pissed and really just throw all morals out the window. Yeah, definitely scary shit.
Totally. Um, so did you see it coming with Pym?
Um, I knew she was when Widow figured out it was Hope. She's like, it's all about Hope. I was like, okay, but is Hope doing this or?
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought too. And for me, it was when they were showing the Shield like founders or whatever, and it showed Janet as one of them, and she was X'd out. I'm like, oh, Hope's revenge killing. And then it wasn't. It was Hank, and I was like, oh, okay, adjacent.
Well, you also got to wonder. We had Crossbones in this,
Mm-hmm.
and we had Alexander Pierce.
Yep.
His name was there.
Yep.
So at this point, nobody knows Hail Hydra exists.
Well, this is also around the time Iron Man 2 happened, so we don't even have that hasn't even popped up yet.
Yep.
So
they are unfettered in their evil plan, whatever that evil plan was.
I'm pretty sure Loki's going to be a pretty big fetter for them, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I will say one thing that surprised me is the weird flex on who they did and did not get to reprise their characters' roles in this episode. Because we have Samuel L. Jackson, who was there basically the whole episode, and they got Tom Hiddleston, they got Mark Ruffalo, which is kind of funny considering the scenes from Hulk they pulled. But they turn around and they don't get the guy who played Ross. I can't remember the actor's name off the top of my head. It's just this weird flex of like some actors they got, even if they only had like two lines, and then other actors they didn't get, even though they had a lot of lines. Like Lake Bell played Scarlet or Black Widow, and considering current events, I can understand that. But
Well,
but
this
I'd
was
also
made quite some time ago before.
exactly. It made me kind of wonder if there was like some rumblings behind the scenes, even leading up to the release of Black Widow. Like she was unhappy with how many times it was pushed back, or I don't know. I don't know everything that's going on.
That
Um,
is certainly a possibility,
mhm.
but I'm also wondering, you know, Scarlett Johansson, for all her conflict with Disney right now,
Mhm.
she's a good actress. I mean,
Mhm.
she's not Meryl Streep, but
No.
I enjoyed her in Lucy. I've enjoyed her in a lot of stuff that she's been in. She has some acting chops, but not every actor can necessarily translate that into voice acting.
Oh
And
yes, I know. The first episode, Sebastian Stan was incredibly wooden, um, as Bucky in the first episode, and I can imagine that's part of it. But still, then they also turn around and, oh, granted, it was Robert Downey Jr. and they probably don't want to pay Robert Downey Jr. prices for like the one line that he had in the episode.
mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't know. It just seems odd because it was also, what is it? In the last episode, they had someone else play Drax than
Yeah.
Dave Batista, and he was even on social media like they never even called or asked. I would have done it for like free. So I don't know.
Well, it could have been logistics. It could have been.
I imagine it's a lot of it.
I mean, they might have figured he would be expensive. Scarlett
Yeah,
Johansson. All right, I'm not saying that she's wrong. That everybody else who got a solo Marvel movie pretty much took a lot more in because of how it was released. She's not
very
wrong
much.
about that.
Nope.
But she's also was paid $20 million for the movie, and she is getting additional residuals. I mean, yeah, my sympathy for her not getting $100 million payday instead of she's only getting a $40 million payday. I mean, if I got a $40 million payday or a $20 million or a $10 million payday, I'd be set for life.
uh, I'd be good with like 120,000.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
I'd be set for life, but that'll get me until my next job.
I mean, I would like to be set for life. I'm greedy,
Sure.
but you know, my sympathy for her, yes. Some of these other actors made a lot more than she did from their solo
Yes,
movies.
and that's not right.
Yeah, and it's not right. And I do think
But
it's something that she should have went to Disney and said, "Look, is there something we can do because, you know, this is not fair. I would like more." But for her to like be suing,
bridge burning, so to
she's
speak.
still she's not going to be out on the street.
No.
She's not going to be homeless because, and I it might be, I don't know the woman personally. I've not met her personally. She is not one of the people I have had the ability to interview. Pretty much none of the Avengers cast on that level have decided to be interviewed on Fandom Spotlight, unfortunately.
Doors probably open though.
But I would definitely consider interviewing those folks if they were interested. But it may also be that Scarlett Johansson's like, I'm not gonna waste my time with a little voice acting gig. I got other things in the fire. That might be why she wasn't in it.
No,
Um,
and that's probably true. As a matter of fact, my thought process was maybe they didn't even reach out to Dave Batista because they were doing the voice recording when he was recording Dune. So
right. It might
it,
have been
it
like conflict. So
yeah, they may have made an assumption on their end that it would have been a conflict and been just like it's not worth the time. And that's probable with a lot of these. Like, I don't know. Samuel L. Jackson's the kind of actor it seems like people are just like, hey, you want to do the thing? And he's like, sure, that sounds fun. And then like, what is like Clark Gregg even doing anymore right now? Same with like Jeremy Renner and uh uh crud Mark
Mark Ruffalo.
Ruffalo not super busy right now. There's probably not a lot of people that are super busy right now. But it's just it's funny. To me, it seemed really weird the choices they made, pulling who they pulled and who they decided not to ask to play the roles, because they didn't get that's the other thing, they didn't have Chris Evans play Steve in the first episode, but they got Sebastian Stan, they got practically all of the Howling Commandos, and the actress escapes me, but Peggy, the actress that played Peggy, they got
Oh,
her to play her.
Haley Atwell
Yes,
something. Yeah.
thank you, perfect.
Um,
So they even got Dominic Cooper to reprise Howard Stark in the What If, and it's just it's one of these things. It's like you don't think about it, but then they pull some and then not others, and it seems weird. And this episode was like they were able to get freaking and I said his name earlier, Hank Pym, to play
Michael
him, and
Douglas.
yeah, they got Michael Douglas to play Hank Pym for this one episode, and uh, it just seemed really funny. That's all. Nothing like big or dramatic problem on my end.
Well,
Just
I do think that Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr., and maybe even to an extent, I mean, she did have the Black Widow movie, but maybe even Scarlett Johansson are like, my character's dead or gone.
we're just done.
I'm done with the Marvel
Yeah,
Universe.
I get it.
I don't know that Robert Downey Jr. needed to necessarily come back and do this role. I
For the
don't know that they
two
even
lines.
approached him,
No,
I mean, it's something he could have recorded on his phone and sent it in, and they probably could have, used that.
cleaned it up and synced it a little better or whatever. Yeah, totally. They probably could have literally pulled the lines from the movie and then generated some like pained dying noises from random times he got hit or something in one of the movies. So,
Yeah. But
but it's just funny. That's basically like the surprising part to me is the actors they pulled when some of these scenes are cut and dry or cut and paste from the movies they were originally from, like
Mhm.
the scene in the donut shop, with one exception. So I don't know. I just think it's interesting. It is another interesting thing about this episode is this is the first episode where we didn't really have the watcher explain the choice. Like we didn't really see where the choice divergence happened. Because the first two episodes we did, it was literally Peggy being like, "Nah, I'll stay down here," and then it was then granted the
that was
watcher
the
didn't
moment.
explain.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and then the watcher didn't explain it, but like they had the moment of like, why'd you grab the wrong kid? He's like, oh well, you sent us to do it. This was just the kid we thought it was. Basically, it was like Yondu not being involved or deciding
Yeah,
not
well,
to
he
be involved
explained that Yandu delegated
instead of doing it
instead
himself.
of
That's
doing it
right.
himself. So,
But like, yeah, this was weird because it was the first episode we got that didn't do that.
well, he could have. What they could have done if they wanted to keep that in was shown like, outside of Ukraine 2 years ago, and just have like some agent die, but you don't see who it is.
Yeah.
You know, a shield mission goes wrong, and then then flash forward to this. No one realized it, but this was the moment that everything changed. And then
Yep.
you go to the future and you see all this, happening. And they could have even made it so that the shield agent, they didn't reveal who it was, but they didn't actually show her death.
Yeah.
And so you might think, oh, it's a shield agent, was abandoned by your people, and therefore now she's taking revenge. And then the twist would be, no, it's Hank Pym because his daughter
She
died.
actually did die or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's true. They could have done something. I think it's interesting because this is the first one to break that format of not showing us the inciting choice or not even explaining the inciting choice. It was just kind of left to us to figure it out. So
The whole
um,
multiverse thing, it's actually, when you think about it, there is the theory that there is actually a multiverse here.
mhm.
So there's actually a universe where Spider-Man exists because there's an infinite number of
Yeah,
universes and everything. But what creates a new universe? I could have decided to put on a different shirt today. Does
Yep.
that create a new universe?
We could have. It depends. I would imagine. I think by the theory of how things work here, yeah. But some of those multiversal branches may be so similar that they're not, distinguishable. Um, I don't know. It's really odd. It's not in a bad way. It's just a very interesting and fascinating concept that this show is bringing up with the idea of like what little things change and what can cause dramatic differences. And they're not going to show us one where it's like it's the exact same timeline, but like everything's purple or something like that. They're not going to show us that one where or Iron Man decides to have his armor just stay silver or some dumb junk like that. Um,
Right, but who actually decides what is a meaningful change?
yeah,
Let's delve into a little sci-fi here.
theory crafting.
Like in the past, I've been a smoker. I've met a lot of people going out for cigarettes. Let's say there's a universe where I never took up smoking. I decided it wasn't for me. Maybe it's a healthier me in that universe. But because this one person decided to not smoke, he didn't interact with the same people, and he interacted with different people because he never went outside to go get a cigarette. He
Yep.
never went to the store to grab a pack. So therefore, that one slight change in one person can change everyone he interacts with, and all the people that he interacts with, it could change their directions.
Yep.
Maybe I went out to have a cigarette and talk to someone who was having a bad day, ended up having a cheerful conversation, and they went away, feeling a little bit better.
Yep.
But because I didn't take up smoking, no one talked to that person. They were feeling depressed. They weren't watching where they were going. They walked out into traffic. They got hit by a car, and therefore, in 10 years, didn't cure cancer. There's lots of things that could happen. The what if scenario is so broad.
It's limitless
Yeah.
technically. Because in the comics it's always been explored as like what if weird matchups happen, or what if so and so didn't become so and so, or so and so did become so and so. But and they're kind of exploring that to an extent, but it's rarely ever utilized in media, that it's something as simple as the butterfly effect, so to speak. I mean, that's that premise of that whole movie, is this concept of like making one small decision will cause this ripple effect that changes literally everything. I think they touched on that on Loki a little bit when they were giving him the little brief trainer video of like how the multiverse is formed and things like that, where it's like someone was late to work, variant.
Just being late to work can cause, a ripple effect that can change all kinds of stuff. I am wondering though, these 3 episodes have all been Marvel Cinematic Universe based.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to see, or do you think that we will see episodes that are like involve characters that are not from the movies, like Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron
I
Fist?
I think if we're going to get those, I don't think it's going to be right now. And if we do, I think we're going to get ones that we're going to see in the movies soon. So, like, people are thinking like the Fantastic Four coming very soon and the X-Men are coming soonish. I think we'll see those in a what if before we will something like a Daredevil or Luke Cage or whatever.
Well, they do say that Daredevil, it's a rumor, that Daredevil will appear, at least as Matt Murdock, in No Way Home.
Do you think well, I've also heard he's going to be in She-Hulk.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to be Charlie Cox playing him?
That was the rumor. I love it to be Charlie Cox. I think he makes a great Daredevil. Though they can never seem to find people with the correct color hair, whether it's Marvel or DC. Matt Murdock is supposed to be ginger.
Yep.
There's a lot of people in the DC universe who are supposed to have a different hair color. Barry Allen is supposed to be blonde.
Yep. Not this weird, dirty brunette look.
Or black hair if you're talking about the DCEU.
Yeah.
So it's like, why can they never find people with natural red hair, and yeah, there's not enough. I think there's not enough gingers in Hollywood, or they're just not. They're
They're all
not
related
casting
to
them.
Ron Howard.
Could be. It's the Opie
Yeah,
factor.
yeah, totally.
What if
Um,
Opie did not exist? This was the turning point when they were walking down, whistling, and a car came out of nowhere and took out Opie.
so as a side note too, I think this is one of the only times, at least that I've noticed it, that and I may have missed it in the previous episodes, but you can see the Watcher in the background of some of the shots. Like
Yeah,
when they're doing the large establishing driving shots or whatever, you can see him standing in the background, which is curious.
yeah. Well, you know, like
He's watching.
Eugene on Walking Dead, he likes to watch, but and what he watches, wow, you think about him watching alternate realities. What else does he watch? Come on, that big old perv. But yeah,
Creepy.
this was the first time I noticed that as well.
So I don't know. I think this was a very interesting departure. I do really enjoy that the series keeps up the idea of like the experimental takes on some of these characters or some of these decisions that they've made, or just in general experimental things that they could do and new ways of storytelling. I love that Marvel's kept that up with their TV shows in general, is they're trying lots of new things. It's the spaghetti shotgun method. Is they're just loading up a shotgun with a bunch of wet spaghetti, firing it at the wall and see what sticks, and it's the buckshot. um and we're getting more Loki, and I believe we've been told we're getting more What If, but those are the only two that have been said that they're going to get more episodes. uh
Well, WandaVision was a fun series, but I don't know that it
we
really
don't we don't need
ended in a
more.
way that lended itself to more.
It was a really good method of telling a singular collection of stories, and a really nice bridge from like the end of Endgame to what's going to be happening in future elements that she's going to be involved in and all the Marvel stuff. Because we're quickly becoming to where it's less the Marvel Cinematic Universe and more like the Marvel like screen universe. Because everything that's happened in these shows is technically canon. It's just what sticks around will be interesting to see.
Well, Loki can be canon, but it doesn't really affect the rest of the universe. Though I think it would really be cool for Thor to run into Loki, the variant Loki,
Mm-hmm.
and be like, "Brother, you 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 were dead. You're not dead. Wait a
There's
minute,
a
you're not dead. It was
there's a
another
really
trick.
cool
I swear it wasn't. I'm not that Loki. I'm a different Loki. Let me explain. I'm not
and
gonna
then
believe
Thor
you, Loki."
throws him off a cliff. There's actually a fan comic someone put out about that. Like Thor freaks the heck out. He's like, how many times do I have to watch you die just to come back? And it's just like, yeah, no, that's got to be the most painful element of their familial relationship is, just when you think Loki's being a good dude, he dies and then he shows back up again. He's like, ha, it was a joke. Um,
Oh, and let me introduce you to all these other Lokis. Pay no attention to the one who's an alligator.
or the child, and the child was just sitting with his sword looking at Thor like,
Didn't I kill you?
um but no, it'll be interesting to see. I think the ones that are definitely going to have the well, see, it's hard to say. I think they're all going to have a fairly large impact. I just don't know if we've seen how What If will have an impact on movies and stuff going forward, though I have a theory. um
Are you willing to share this theory?
I can. So I think they're going to be using it to reintroduce some characters that are no longer alive in the core Marvel Cinematic Universe in a very similar fashion to how Loki did. So the Loki we have is not the original Loki from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I think that's going to happen with Killmonger. Um, I think he's going to be coming back at some point. I don't know. This is the vibe I get from the episodes they're giving us.
Well, I mean, now that the TVA is no longer really effective
Yeah.
and they have all these, multiverses showing up, they could bring in pretty much anyone,
Hmm.
and maybe they will do their own version of a crisis. And at the end of it, maybe that's how they bring in the Fantastic Four, and they bring in the X-Men, and
Yep.
they, bring in Killmonger as Black Panther, and do it in a way that doesn't negate what came before.
Yeah. I, I I think that's a big thing. Like I mentioned, Loki was definitely showing they can do is, bring in this alternate version of this character and not have it dismantle everything that happened before. Because that was a big fear I had going into Loki, was that like, well, what's going to happen with all the development that we had, and now it's just this 2012 Loki who's going to show up, and they were able to. We know it's not the same Loki, and he doesn't feel the same way as the Loki that died in Infinity War, but we did get to see growth in the short term and the long term from the events of the adventure he went on in the series. So I think it's a good way to kind of like, it's different growth, but it's still growth, but it doesn't negate the loss, but it's still letting us have that character there. And I think that's a really good thing that this show is going to do as well, is give us the opportunity for that. And it's going to let us have things like, we're going to have two Doctor Stranges on screen or something like that, some weird things like that.
Well, I mean, we already have you seen the trailer for?
Yeah.
Um, so we have Doc Ock back, but
Yep.
the Doc Ock that faced a different Peter Parker,
Yep.
which is really cool.
It is. And I've been watching a lot of the commentary around a lot of these announcements and the leaks that like, all these other, we're gonna have the other Spider-Mans, and we're gonna have Doc Ock, and we're gonna have Green Goblin, and I'm kind of thinking people think there's gonna be more to it than just like they're gonna be on screen for a few minutes, and I'm kind of worried people are gonna be upset when the movie comes out. I'm not expecting them to be around longer than this movie, and I'm not expecting any of them to be in the movie more than just a few minutes here and there. Um,
I think they can't have it be a Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland as a star and have all these other people. Yeah, they have to be relatively short scenes.
mhm.
Maybe we'll get a few extra minutes with this one or that one. But they can't bring like the Flashpoint movie. They can't bring all these other characters in
This
and
isn't a
still have
Power
it be a
Rangers Red
Flash.
Ranger.
Yeah, and still have it be a Flash movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say that with not Winter Soldier, Civil War, it was almost like Avengers 2.5.
I felt that way.
It was not really just a Captain America movie at that point
No.
because
Um,
everyone was involved from
yep.
throughout the entire movie. Um, yeah, so I have a feeling that we will see a lot of these people, but what is cool is they can merge the universes and we can have. That's how we can get Deadpool because Deadpool is not being recast.
Nope. And honestly, I hope if they actually start utilizing Ryan Reynolds in the MCU as Deadpool, I hope he notices. Like I hope Deadpool notices what's going on. Like he may not understand it, but he's like, something's weird. Like I don't know, more money. Like everyone else is cast different but me.
It's like, oh, wait a minute. Are you the Maguire or?
Yeah, exactly. A joke like that would be golden.
I
It's
like
like
you
from
better. Yeah, I like you better as the Maguire version.
it's the same joke from the first Deadpool, was like when Colossus was like, I'm gonna take you back to the professor, and he's like,
McAvoy or
McAvoy or
Stewart?
Stewart, I'm losing track.
Yeah, I mean Deadpool would have a ton of fun in the MCU.
Yep. But yeah, no, in general, I really enjoyed it. I think we're shaping up to some very interesting stories. I still maintain that I think we're gonna see some of these characters come back before the end of the season, for like a big thing. I don't know, a big crossover event. It's really weird that we're gonna have a crossover event inside of a show that's all about a crossover event. Um, but I'm very interested to see where they go. Um,
Yeah, I am very curious if we're going to have to wait till next season, or if in this season they will say this is a continuation from episode 3. They
Yeah.
thaw out Steve Rogers, and he is now alongside Captain Marvel, and, they are going after Loki.
Yep.
And, they're recruiting. And that would be a perfect time to grab, like, Luke Cage and Jessica Jones and
Yep.
Daredevil and Iron Fist as, like, because have always been reserve Avengers in the comics.
If we're being honest, who hasn't been a reserve Avenger in the comics?
Exactly. The Fantastic Four has all been
Yeah.
reserve Avengers at some point. But, this would be a great time for them to find more people to join them.
Yep.
And Luke Cage and Jessica Jones would definitely be assets.
Well,
I mean,
and
Daredevil
then
would too, but he'd be more on the level of Cap, though not as
well,
strong.
and then so would Iron Fist to an extent. He's kind of like if Cap and Strange had some similarities.
Had a love
You
child.
know, sort of weird British American hybrid. No, but no, yeah, no, I've enjoyed it. I'm hoping we get some more weirdness, because weirdness has always been the strong suit of these, where, like with the Captain Carter episode, it was weird Cthulhu monster, and then with the second episode it was heist upon a heist upon a heist, and then with this one it was murder mystery Hank Pym style. So I'm very interested to see like the kind of vibe they go for, because that's the other thing, is every episode has been kind of a different feeling or style or vibe, and that's what's made them interesting too.
Well, I'm probably wrong, but I'm just curious if, there's a head writer who looks like they've written most of these. I'm looking at the IMDb page right now.
I did too. Be careful, there are spoilers.
I'm just looking at the series writing credits.
Fair.
So it does look. I was going to say, you could almost get a different writer for every single episode, and maybe they'll do that in the future.
Yeah.
And bring in, like, Stephen King. What would you like to do with the Marvel Universe? What would you do different?
That would be a really fun way to go. Same thing with like directors, like get some different animation directors in there, kind of like what they're doing with, because I would also like to see some different styles. I think that's a big thing right now that I think is not being exploited as well as it could. What is it they're doing? Disney's doing with the Star Wars, Visions, bringing in all the different anime studios, doing something where you have some different animation studios telling different stories would be a lot of fun with What If. And you could produce it faster, because each animation studio only has to do one episode. So boom, done.
Yeah, they could all be working on them simultaneously, since they're not connected in any way, anyhow, any form.
Yeah.
So,
because they could do something completely different than what they're doing in the first season with the second season of What If, and it would still maintain the tone of the show, and it wouldn't be a loss, I don't think.
yeah, and it would just be more fodder for us. But I am curious to see if this entire series of What If is totally based on the MCU, or if they'll bring in other stories from the comics.
Well, and even if it is relatively based on the MCU, is it going to end based on the MCU? Like, is it going to funnel back into it?
Did they get Brie Larson to come be Captain Marvel?
Nope, she was not. She was not one of the returning actors.
Yeah, they got Neil McDonough. I'm saying it right, to be Dum Dum Dugan again.
Yep.
Which was great. Or Damien Dark, as I also know him as.
Yep. Also, that cop that got house arrested for his painkillers. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, it's the weird thing about who they have pulled in to do some of these voices for who's the recurring character and who isn't. So I don't know. It would be interesting to see what they keep doing.
Yeah, it was. Getting back to last episode, having Chadwick Boseman's voice was
As T'Challa, yeah.
That was awesome. That
Short
must
of
have been one of his last
this was the last thing he did, I think. Um,
He's right up there with Orson Welles as the last thing he did was an animated thing.
yeah, but he wasn't nearly as salty about it as Orson Welles was.
They have summoned me here for a purpose. Um,
But yeah, it was really funny too about the last episode is of all of the actors they had returning to play the characters, he was the only one that sounded 100% the same. Like him and Thanos, like Josh Brolin as Thanos, were the only ones that I'm like, yeah, that is 100% the same actor. And like Digimon Hanzo came back to play Korath in the second episode, but he was so much more upbeat and energetic. It didn't sound like it was him.
yeah, even Rucker sounded a little bit, less salty.
Yeah, just a little bit.
But it was definitely Rooker, because yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, the other one was Benicio del Toro playing the Collector. Sounded nothing like he did in the live action version. Like you still knew it was him, but it wasn't the same level of weirdness.
Well, but he also was like Thanos' replacement, so he was playing it, if I became a billionaire and had the say of life and death over, millions of people, I probably would sound a little bit different when I spoke. Yeah. I'd have probably a little bit different mannerisms.
Yep. When your collection was literally the galaxy, you stopped being nearly as eccentric and being a little more power hungry.
Yeah, that's a cool fight. Speaking of fights, that fight between Hank Pym and
Fury,
that was awesome.
That was really good. Pym goes straight for him, and Fury's just like, smack, stop it.
Yeah, he's just like, boom, 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 boom,
When he was doing the blocks is when I knew something was fully up. Like I thought that first smackdown, I'm like, okay, maybe because Fury's really smart. He knows what he's dealing with,
Get this motherfucking Ant-Man off my motherfucking plane.
But no, that was an absolutely genius like final fight scene kind of situation, like pulling in Loki to do the trickster god move, and of course Loki's able to fight Hank Pym. He's an Asgardian or Jotun, whatever. They're all superhuman aliens.
Giant, he is. But yeah, he's got abilities.
He's got magic.
Yep. I mean, it's actually he fought much better in this What If than he ever had in any of the cinematic movies, but
well, I mean Ragnarok. He did pretty good in Ragnarok.
Yeah, that's true.
Not like super great, but pretty good.
Much better than he did in his own series though.
Yeah. Well, but the Loki series is basically Doctor Who, and violence isn't the point of that.
Doctor Who. Gonna meet that guy someday.
That was just the entire series of Loki was just Tom Hiddleston's audition to play Doctor Who. That's all it was.
We'll see about that. He would be an interesting choice, but I don't know that he's going to.
He'd have to be tied down to do it.
Yeah, give up a most lucrative career with the MCU to go work for BBC.
And the MCU, he has the freedom to between movies and shows, he still has plenty of time to go do stage plays. Because they'll work with him for that. I don't know if the Doctor Who schedule for filming and stuff would work with his ability to do other things.
But then again, they don't do very long seasons, and
also true.
And he might be able to work it out. It would be interesting to see him as the Doctor.
It definitely feels like it would be them going more in a Tennant direction if they tried to get Tom Hiddleston to play him.
Something between Tennant and Smith, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, he's got the chin for Smith, but
he does. Yeah.
And I'll never do it again. All right. Well,
I think the next episode is going to be some Doctor Strange stuff, but I don't know for sure.
What if Doctor Strange smoked way too much pot? That would be a cool one. Dude, I can like do magic and shit. Whoa.
What if Doctor Strange didn't go to medical school?
There you go. That
It's a
works.
it's a 30-minute episode of him just like working as like a tax adjuster.
And then you have been chosen. I'm sorry,
What?
I've been chosen for what? I'm sorry, that does not calculate. How much does this job pay? Sorcerer Supreme. You get a mansion. Great. What's
Yeah,
the
but
value on the mansion?
yeah, I'm what's the tax I'm going to have to pay on that kind of property?
Yeah, it's in
I'm
New
sorry.
York City.
New York City? No, thank you. No, thank you.
I'm not saddling myself with that. Thank you very much.
Ugh.
Yeah, you do gotta wonder, and this is not a what if discussion, but it's something we saw in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. How do these heroes, survive?
For the longest time, it was probably Stark. Because
Stark
like
was like,
when
"Here's your food stamps."
well, I mean, it was kind of like you think about all the ones that were in the Avengers. Stark bankrolled the Avengers. Because he talked about that in Age of Ultron. He's like basically paying for everything, because he can, apparently.
Well, he
But
probably made more money per day than it costs to maintain the Avengers each day. So
yeah,
he was sicko rich, but I can't see like Steve Rogers taking handouts. He'd be like,
no. Well, I mean, for the longest time, he was a Shield agent, and then after Winter Soldier, he was with the Avengers. So I'm pretty sure those were just. I mean, some of them lived at the Avengers compound. Wanda and Vision both did. Um, so
well, Vision also didn't necessarily need to like eat
no,
or be worried about the elements all that much. But yeah, with like Sam Wilson, he didn't have any record of income. One because of the blip, but even before that, it's not like he could say, "Well, I was making 150K a year with the Avengers."
I'm pretty sure he technically was though, because he was at the compound when Scott tried to steal the equipment.
Yeah, I mean he was working with the Avengers, but
Yeah.
I don't know. They need to like actually work out, the logistics of that. But
I'm sorry. What was your taxable income for saving the world?
and do you get a bonus? It's like, okay, well, not as many civilians died this time, so we're going to give you twice as much bonus as last time. There was not as much collateral damage. Plus, the insurance companies are giving you a little boost because you didn't destroy 3 buildings. So,
Less collateral damage. Good
yeah.
job, guys. And Bruce is just in over here. Is like, guys, I don't make anything.
Me, Hulk, hate stairs and deductibles.
So, well, we are reaching, I believe, the end of time here. For the next,
End of time.
yeah, right.
We're going to find Kang or someone
Yep.
like him.
Oh, the a version of, um, Kyle. Is there anything you would like to plug since you have been my guest this whole episode?
Well, I would like to plug. Tune in to Fandom Spotlight on YouTube because we have more stuff coming. More panels from, I think, another panel from Awesome Con and panel previews from MegCon Orlando next week on Tuesday. Well, this weekend you will see a new governor reacts. And I have heard the puppet haters, so we're making adjustments. The puppet's very depressed. And then next week on Tuesday we have the Walking Dead Reactors panel. Wednesday is Viscia Redux, I believe, with Clueless. And Thursday we'll be back with another episode of What If discussion. So,
And I believe I'm going to be
hopefully,
hosting that one as well.
what's that?
I believe I'm going to be hosting that one as well.
Well, hopefully Matt will be back. I hope whatever emergency he had to deal with was worked out well.
Just hoping.
Victor, I think, will be back, and I'm going to see if I can get someone else to jump in. whenever we do the zombie episode, I think that's coming up. We definitely have someone for that. But
Nice.
yeah, we have lots of things. Just tune into Fandom Spotlight. Go to fandomspotlight.com where you can see marvelous writing by Joseph Davis and others. And yeah, and Yali will soon be back.
Miss you, Yali.
We miss you, Yali.
This is
Feel
really
better,
hard.
Yali. Even the
Um,
governor misses you, Yali.
and I've been Joe. I'm a writer, like I said, at Fandom Spotlight, and you can find me on various social medias. I've said them before. It's like at the Spice Must Joe. Find me on LinkedIn. And we did talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp again this episode because it's a thing with me. Um, they're my favorite Marvel movies.
It is unavoidable.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you for joining us if you did, and make sure to keep tuning in as we keep talking about like what if I'm back next weekend, next week, maybe I won't be, who knows.
And yeah, I was gonna say, and if you're watching this on replay, thanks for watching it on replay.
Definitely.
Don't skip the ads. We need the money.
I'm starving.
You'll feed a
Thanks,
poodle.
everyone.
All right. Do you want to say the have fun line? Do you know the have fun line?
Have fun and make sure to follow your fandom.
Well, we don't say make sure. We just say have fun and follow your fandom. Try it
My
again.
bad.
This is, we want ratings from people.
Right. Have fun and follow your fandom.
That sounded good. Almost like an audiobook.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.